Hello and welcome to Tuesday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic and a brand new puzzle by the constructor Shye today. For those of you unaware of who Shye is a brilliant but terrifying setter, to me at least, because she seems to think in ways that cause my brain to have to bend into uncomfortable places. Anyway, this puzzle has 4 stars out of 5 for difficulty on Logic Masters Germany and a whopping 97% approval rating, so it ought to be brilliant. It's called The Hive, by the way. I don't know why. I hope it's not a blatant attempt to psych me out by reference to the current OP nature of the Zerg in StarCraft 2. I'm sure fellow Terran players know what I'm talking about here if I just say the word lurkers. Now, I trust you all woke up this morning to your radios blaring, I got you, babe, because today is, of course, Groundhog Day. Now, bad news is that Punxsutawney Phil apparently emerged from his hole or his hibernation, spotted his shadow, and that means that there are 6 more weeks of winter in store for us all. Although I am grateful to Peter Graham for the following knowledge bomb, which is that an albino Groundhog Day in Wyerton, Ontario did not see his shadow, and therefore the Canadians are due for an early spring. I have no idea how this relates to climate change, but it seems pretty profound to me. Well, one thing anyway, whether we've got spring on the way or not, one thing that will make us all feel better is Groundhog Day Sudoku. How do I know this? Well, no fewer than 200 of you have successfully completed the puzzles we released yesterday, Groundhog Day Sudoku, over on Patreon. It's fabulous solving by all of you. I don't know how we're going to announce it. We might have to have some sort of Star Wars style scrolling of the names. But yeah, it's brilliant. And the feedback's been terrific. That's warmed our hearts. So big thanks for that. And if you are a patron of the channel, go over to Patreon and try the puzzles. And we know you'll like them. And a huge thank you to Sed Hollason for helping us to set them. Still no news from Sting or Selena Gomez or Steve Martin, I'm afraid, on how Mark did in his crossword off versus Sting. We live in hope. We live in hope that there will be an official announcement soon, but we shall see. Anyway, what are the rules of Shye's puzzle? Very simple today. We've got normal Sudoku rules apply. We have 2 marked diagonals. You can see the diagonals marked in blue. These need to contain the digits from 1 to 9 once each. So a Sudoku X constraint. And then we've got killer Sudoku. So basically, in cages, digits must sum to the small clue in the top left corner of the cage. And digits cannot repeat within a cage. So those 3 squares need to sum to 20. These 3 squares need to sum to 14, and if that square was a 4, you couldn't put another 4 there, because although that seems to work Sudoku-wise, the 4 repeats in a cage, and that's not allowed. That's all there is. Do have a go yourselves. The way to play is to click the link under the video. Now I get to play. Let's get cracking. The first thing I notice as I stare at this grid is that, as usual it seems nowadays, none of the cages have much of a restriction in them, do they? Yeah, you know, when I used to do killer Sudoku, there would always be a 2-cell 17 cage or a 2-cell 3 cage, and you could feel good about yourself by pencil marking things in. No longer. I mean, the thing that strikes me when I look at this grid is this strange pattern down the diagonals here with these cages. Maybe this is why it's called the Hive. Is this meant to be a honeycomb pattern, maybe? I mean, we can do a little bit of maths. I've mentioned this on the channel once or twice before, but let's look at this box. These yellow squares, we know what they add up to, because a complete box of the Sudoku will contain all of the digits from 1 to 9. And if we add up those digits, we get the number 45. So if the yellow digits sum to 45, but those squares sum up to 31, those squares add up to 14 to get us to the 45 total. Now 14 is absolutely useless because it's almost averaging 5, and 5 is of course the average digit between 1 and 9. So we know very little. You know, if these had summed to 24 or to 6 or something like that, it would have been happy days. But as it is, it's not. Down here, down here we've got exactly the same. We've got two 15 cages, which means these three squares do have an average of exactly 5 because they must add to 15 as well. So 15 here, 14 here means these three squares add up to 16 bobbins. Bobbins, bobbins, bobbins. Do we have to... So how do we do this puzzle? Do we have... One thing I don't think... I'll just mention it in case any of you are thinking about it. It might... Well, if this is relevant, we shall... Yeah, this will be a very long video. But there is a variant of Fistimofel that uses these 16 cells. So it's possible to show that these 16 cells here are the same as... I think it's these cells in any Sudoku. So the 16 digits that you find in the purple squares are the exact same set of digits you'll find in the green squares. I think there are 16 greens. There are. So, you know, that is a little bit interesting with these overlapping cages in the perimeter as well. Is it worth checking this? The reason I'm hesitant is that, you know, there's such lack of clarity over the sum of those cells, the sum of those cells, and indeed all four corner squares, that it's like we're going to end up with a simultaneous equation with about 18 unknowns and 2 equations, and that's going to be very hard for me to solve and probably embarrassing for me to try to solve. I think I'll come back to this. If I think this is, if I can't find anything else, I will come back to this. I'm not convinced that is the way in. Although now it's niggling at me that I've deleted it. As it seems like I've done even less now. I suppose the other thing that's actually just, while it occurs to me, thinking about these cells in the perimeter, we do actually, you can always approximate the value of the perimeter of a Sudoku. So we know that these yellow squares will equal 180 minus the 4 corner squares. And that's just an extension of the arithmetic we did on box 1. We know those squares will add up to 45, those will add up to 45, that's 90. Add on those squares, that's another 45, but obviously I'm double counting those corners. Add on these, that's another 45, double counting these corners. So the perimeter of any Sudoku is equal to 180 I should say, 4 lots of 45 minus the 4 corner cells. Now, here the interesting thing is that we can actually work out the value of those perimeter cells there because of the 20 cage and the 12 cage. So we've got 25 there and 33 there. Is that going to be worth looking at? It might. Actually, I'm not sure. Let's at least do the maths, and then we can convince ourselves it's not important. So we've got 40 there, 60, 72. What was that? 25 there, 97, 33, 130. I've got 130 in those yellow squares, and I know that once I add these squares into that, I'll have 180. No, this is no good. I just don't know enough. Sorry, I just don't know enough about the corner squares. I think if I knew what the 4 corner squares were, either Fistimofel or that perimeter thing might be worth thinking about. So I've wasted the first 10 minutes of the video getting absolutely nothing. Okay, what do we do to crack this puzzle? We can the 12 cage has got to have a 1 and a 2 in it. At least I've got pencil marks. There we go. That's a breakthrough. can I do anything with the 1 and the 2 here? You can't put a 1 or a 2 in a 21 cage, actually, so maybe that's what I meant to think about. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, I'm still nowhere near a digit, don't worry about that, but that square I can actually pencil mark with a middle pencil mark. That can only be a 1 or a 2. And it's quite a beautiful idea, actually. Look, these squares can't be 1 and 2, because we know the 1 and the 2 in box 7 are in these 4 squares. You can't ever put a 1 or a 2 in a 21 cage, because the other 2 cells will have to add up to too many. So there's no 1 and 2 in these squares, which means that the 1 and the 2 definitely are in 2 of these 3 squares in box 9. But if I put them both here, this square would have to be a 12, which it can't be. There's a knowledge bomb for you. So this square is a 1 or a 2. That feels like amazing progress after what's gone before it. So 12 can be 1, 2, 4, 5 or 1, 2, 3, 6. 5, 1, 2. 3 wouldn't. Got it. I've got it. Look, this can't be 1, 2, 3, 6. Because if it's 1, 2, 3, 6, we run into an even bigger problem in row 9. Where do we put the 3 now? You can't put it there. You can't put a 3 in a 21 cage either. So the 3 would have to join its friends, the 1 and the 2, down here in a 1, 2, 3 triple. But now I can't make this domino high enough. Even if I make that 2 and 3, this would still have to be 10. That doesn't work. So still no digits. No, but at least now I now know exactly what this is. This is 1, 2, 4, 5. And you can't put more than one of those digits in the 21 cage, because if you put 4 and 5 in, the other square would have to equal 12. So this either has 4 or 5 in it. These 2 squares are 1, 2, 4 and 5. So there's exactly one of 4 or 5 in here, and exactly one of 4 or 5 in here. So there's So there's always a 9 in the 21 cage, because whether it's got a 4 in it and it's 4, 8, 9, or a 5 and it's 5, 7, 9, there's a 9 in it. Which means there's a 9. Which means there's no. Well, let's do this slowly. Look, there's a 9 now in box 7 in this domino. Which means there's no 9 in the 19 cage. Which means there is an 8 in the 19 cage, because I know that 5, 6 and 7 add to 18, and that is not the same as 19. It's too few. So there is an 8 in there. And that bounces back down here again. So now... Oh, and that fixes... Oh, this is beautiful. This is such a clever idea. Honestly, it really is. So... What Shye has done, let's just think about the process of setting this puzzle, assuming that I'm thinking about it in the way intended, is to use the fact that this needs to have a 1 and a 2 in it to force one of those, well, to firstly do some stuff over here. Then you can narrow this down to exactly 1, 2, 4, 5. Then you can prove there's a 9 in here. Then this beautifully works around the corner here. Forces 8 in here, bounces back down here with the 8. Now there can't be an 8 in the 21 cage, so the only way of getting to the total is with 5, 7 and 9, which means this cage doesn't have a 5 in it. Which means it must be 2, 4, because if it's 4, 1, you'd have to put 10 here. And now, ta-da, I have a digit. In fact, I have 2 digits. That must be 9. Now, what does that mean? That means I get 3 digits. That's a 9 as well. 4 digits. There's a 7 in there. That's a 7. These squares here are 3, 6 and 8. That's not 8 because of the 8 up here. Oh, the 19 cage is now... Yeah, look. The 19 cage has an 8 in it, and it needs 11 more. Well, it can't use 2, 9. It can't repeat the 8. So that domino that adds to 11 is not 3, 8. It can't have 4, 7 in there. So it's 5, 6, 8. And that's 3 in the corner. That's 3 in the corner. That's 3 in the spotlight. Losing its religion there. There's a 3... Sorry, there's a 6, 8 pair now. 1, 2, 4 pair up here. That's probably going to matter for this, is it? I can't put 1 and 2 in a 14 cage because that would have to be too many. So there must be a 4 in it. So there's no 4 here, and there's a 1. Yeah, look, there's no 4 in this square because I need the 4 in the 14 cage. Whoops, pressing the wrong buttons. And there's no 1 on the diagonal, so this must be 2, which makes this a 1, 4 pair and fixes that this is a 9. Good Lord. It's absolutely brilliant, isn't it? It really is. Now, what did those have to add up to? 14, didn't they? Oh, okay, so these were 14. Now there's a 2 in them. These have to add up to 12. Can't be 4, 8 or 3, 9. These are 5, 7. Now 5, 7 get pushed. Yeah, okay, now 5, 7 get pushed into the 15 cage. So that must be 3, 5, 7 here. These squares have got to be 6 and 8. Yeah, and that does work because those 3 squares had to add up to 15. So suggests we haven't made a mistake yet. Okay. So those squares are also 3, 6 and 8. I feel like I've just said that. 3, 6 and 8. So now there's a 3, 6, 8 triple in column 3. That can't be a 3 therefore, because the 3 in this 3, 6, 8 triple is definitely in this domino. So that gives us a 6, 8 pair in column 2. These 3 squares, we know them. They are 3, 4 and 9. 3 doesn't go in the middle because of the 3 in the corner. 12. Oh, this... Okay, we can do something with the 12 cage now. The 12 cage has not got a 1 in it. So is it possible it doesn't have a 2? And if it doesn't have a 2, it would have to be 3, 4, 5. And that gives, well, it makes this a Schrödinger cell. It would have to have 2 personalities at the same time. It would have to be 3 and 5. Well, it can't be both of those at the same time. So this does have a 2 in it. 2. That locks 2 in the 20 cage in box 3 here by Sudoku of all things. 2. And you okay. Now look, you can't put 9. In fact, you can't put 9 or 8 in the 12 cage now. If you put 9 in the 12 cage along with a 2, you need a 1 in there, and you can't have it. If you put 8 in there with a 2, you've got to have another 2. Also impossible. So these are 8 and 9 in 2 of these 3 squares. 9 can't be in that one, look. 8 and 9 are now not in the 20 cage, which means the 3 cells that are not 2 needs to add up to 18 without using 8 and 9. That's only one way to do that. This has got to be 5, 6, 7 along with the 2, which might be good. What does that mean? It means that 1 has to go in those cells by Sudoku. No 1 in the 20 cage now. There never was a 1 in the 20 cage. There never was a 2 in the 20 cage. There could there be a 3 in it? It would have to be 3, 8, 9. That would be 9. That would be 8. Not sure. Maybe it could be 3, 8, 9. The 12 cage now. Oh, sorry, look, the 12 cage, we know what it is. Because we know it's got a 2 in it, and its other 2 cells must add up to 10. Well, they can't be 1, 9 or 2, 8. So they're either 3, 7 or 4, 6. Well, if they're 3 and 7, that square has to be both of those at the same time again. So this square's being asked to do too much work in this puzzle. So this square, this has got to be 4, 6 and 2. Which surprisingly doesn't seem to do much. Oh, it locks a 4 into the same cells as 1 in box 3. So this is a 1-4 pair now. So the 20 cage now doesn't have 1, 2 or 4 in it. And these 3 squares we now know the value of. These are 3. Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's good. Hang on. These have to be, let's go to central pencil marks. These have to be 3, 8, 9, which very nicely rules that out as a possibility here. So this 20 cage now cannot contain 1, 2, 3 or 4. So it's got to have a 5 in it, because if it doesn't have a 5 either, 6, 7 and 8 add to 21. So there's definitely a 5 in here. There's no 3 on the diagonal. Look, let's not lose sight of that. In fact, look, 3, 8, 9 is seeing these squares. There's a bit of tidying up I've got to do here. 3 is in that square. There you go. I've done the tidying up already. That didn't take long. Is that all I get for this 3, 8, 9? Okay, let's come back over here. So this is either... Oh, there's got to be a 7 in here. I haven't got a 7 in the row yet. So this must be 5, 7, 8. That's a simple way of doing it. There you go, 5, 7, 8. That's really nice. That gets me an 8 here, a 6 here, 3 here. This square is now a 9, look. This square is now a 3. That's an 8. There's got to be a 3 in one of these cells. This 8 sees the 8 and the 6 at the bottom of the column. Well scanned, Simon. And oh, self-praise is no praise. Oh dear. Let's okay, so we've got a few digits there, and those digits were handy, but they do seem to have dried up a bit, don't we? 9 though. Yeah, okay, 9 in the middle. We get the 4 in the centre of the grid. Is that helpful? I've not put 8 on this diagonal yet, so it's got to go in one of those squares. We can... Okay, I don't know what we can do. We know there's a 3 in one of these 3 squares. Threes are sort of pencil marked into these triples all around the central box there. 2, 5. I don't know. It feels like we might have to start thinking about some of these cages maybe. We've got 18 cage there, so we've got... Yeah, okay, hang on. This 18 cage hasn't not got a 9 in it, because we've got 9s in those positions in the central box, and a 9 here. Oh, I was about to say... So 8, if it's got an 8 in it, it would have to be down there, because it can't be in the top square. If it hasn't got an 8 in it, it has to be 5, 6, 7, which it can't be. There's a 5, 7, 9 triple in box 8. So if you try and put 5, 6, 7 in here, that square has to be both 5 and 7, another Schrödinger cell, which is impossible. So this does have 8 in it, which means that 8 is definitely here in one of those 2 squares, which fixes that square. Locks a 6 into one of those cells. 8's in one of these squares. 6 is not in those cells, look. And this needs another 10 to go with its 8. What is possible? 1, 9 is not possible. 2, 8 is not possible. So we're looking at 3, 7, 3, 7 doesn't work. Again, we get Schrödinger cell problems. 3 can't go in there, 7 can't go in there, so this would have to be 3 and 7 at the same time. It can't do that. In fact, it can't even be 3 anyway. You can't put 3 in the 18 cage. That's a simpler way of looking at it. So this has to be 4, 6, 8, I think. And if that's true, there's a 4 here. So this is 4, this is 8, this is 6. That's not 6, therefore. 4 is not... Ah, hang on. 4 in the 12 cage is now known. It can't be in any of those 3 because of the diagonal. Still don't quite know where 8 goes, I don't think, in the middle box. 4 must be in one of those 2 positions. Uh, 7. Oh goodness, I've missed this. Look, 7 can be there. And 5. That's not 5, therefore. Doesn't seem to have done anything. This square's got to be 1, 2, or 5. Can't be 5. This is 1 or 2. Bobbins. Now what do we do? We can... 6. No 6 here. No 6 here. 3, 9, 17 here. 17 in 3 cells. Now what can and can't go in? The 17 hasn't got an 8 in it, look. So if it so it must have a 9 in it, because if it doesn't have a 9 in it, it has to be 5, 6, 7, which is impossible because that adds up to 18. So there is a 9 in here, which must be in this domino. So it needs another 8. Right, and again, Schrödinger cell time, we can rule out 3, 5 as the option. Because look, 3 can't go in those squares and 5 can't go in those squares. So if this needed 3, 5 as well as the 9, this square would have to be 3 and 5, which it can't be. In fact, you can see it can't have a 3 in it at all. So it's not 3, 5. It's not 2, 6. You can't put a 6 in it at all. So this is 1, 7, 9. That's not 9. This square is now interesting, because this square sees the entirety of the 1, 7, 9 triple through the medium of like what's in its box and what's in its row. And it can't be 5, 6, 8 either. So this square, what can this be? It can be 2, 3, and that is it. This is a 2 or a 3. That must... I've got a bad feeling that something's looking at this. I can't see it. Okay, so this square is very restricted, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure how. Let's keep going around this circle. So we've done this one. We've looked at this one. Let's look at this one. This is a 14 that can't contain a 9. Or an 8, I don't think. Yeah, no, it hasn't got 9 or 8 in it. So it's got to have 7 or 6, or both, I suppose. So if it's got 7 in it, where does the 7 go? It doesn't go in the top, so 7 would go here, and then these would have to add up to 7. Is that... If these are adding up to 7, they're not 2, 5. If they're 1, 6, this would have to be 6, this would have to be 1. If they're 3, 4, this would have to be 4, this would have to be 3. We're running into a few options here, I think. If there's no 7 in it, there needs to be a 6, because 5, 4, and 3 only add up to 12. So the 6 would have to go here. These two would have to add up to... These two would have to add up to 8, without repeating the 6, without using the 7, because we've already looked at the option which involves the 7. So this would have to be 3, 5, which means that would be 3, this would be 5. Bobbins, that seems to work as well, doesn't it? Oh, diagonal Sudoku. Don't forget diagonal Sudoku. There's 6s off the diagonal here. Where does 6 go on this diagonal? It can only go there. Does that... Oh, that might affect this. No, it doesn't. Oh, no, it doesn't. 2, 5, 7 triple, but it doesn't resolve this domino. The 2 in this triple is in this domino, so this square can't be a 2. So maybe it's the 13 cage that's going to resolve this for us. So the 13 cage, can it have a 9? No. Can it have an 8? Yes, I think it can. If it's got 8 in it, the 8 would have to be here. Oh, and you can't put 4 in it. So if there's an 8 in the 13 cage, it has to be 2, 3 and 8. Which would make this a 3-8 pair and this a 2. That would fix that one. So 2, 3, 8 looks interesting. If it's not got an 8 in it, what is the option then? It would have to have... It can't have a 6 in it, actually. And 3, 4, 5 is not enough. So if there's no 8 in it, it has to have a 7 in it. So if it's got a 7 in it, we can... It can't have a 4 in it. God, this is really complicated. So I think if it's got a 7 in it, it has to be 1, 5, 7. Is there a problem with that? 1, 5, 7 in here. Let's just have a look at that. Sorry, let me just put it in and see if I can see a problem. This square is therefore restricted by in exactly the same way that one was, because this sees the whole of the 1, 5, 7 triple. So this square couldn't be 1. In fact, this square could be very few things. What could this square be? It can't be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It'd have to be 9. Oh, and it can't. No, it can't be 9. Ah, look, this doesn't work. If this is 9, which it will be forced to be if this was 13, you get this. Those 4 squares would have to be the digits 1, 5, and 7, and you can't make 4 digits from 3 different numbers. So this doesn't work. So this is 8, 2, 3, which means this is a 3, 8 pair, which means this is a 2, which means this is a 3, which means this is a 3, I think. That's an 8. This is a 6 by Sudoku, 2, 4 here. This is a 5 by Sudoku. That's an 8. This is a 6. Three here sees the 3, 9 on the diagonal. 8 in the middle box now can't go there anymore, so it has to go here. Get rid of the 3, 8 pencil mark there. And it must be about to crack, isn't it? We've got 1, 7 and 9 into this square. I don't think I can resolve that. We've got... I don't believe it. This central box needs 1, 5 and 7 into this square. Oh, come on. This diagonal must do. I don't know if it does. 1, 5, 7. The 1, look, this can't be 1, so the 1 is in one of those 2 squares, which does actually fix the 2 here. That might be useful. Yes, that is useful. This 2 forces this to be a 2. That makes this not a 2, 5 pair, a 1, 5 pair. 2 on the diagonal sees that cell, so this square's a 2. The 2, that gives me the 2 and the 4. Well scanned at the bottom again, Simon. That gives me a 1 here. 1 disappears from this cell. Okay, good. Has this cracked the puzzle? It might have done. I'm sure it has somehow. I just have to spot how. That can't be 8. We've got a 5, 7 pair at the top. That square becomes an 8. Gosh, that square's an... I've got a 5, 7 pair in column 6 now as well. So this column, I've not placed 1, 3 and... I've not placed 1, 3 and 6 in the column. That square sees 3 and 6. This has got to be a 1. 1 and 4 go in. This is not 4, which means this is 4 if I trust my pencil marks. That's great, is it? Because these have to sum up to 10 now. So the only way they work is with 3, 7. That's a 1 now. This is a 5. The 5 on the diagonal is important. It gives me all sorts of treasures. 7 and 5 go in there, look. 7 and 5 go in at the top of the grid. This square by Sudoku's got to be a 6. That means that square's a 6. This square's a 3. This should be a 1. Now, hopefully, if we scan down this column, that's a 5. That means that's a 7, that's a 9. We need a 2 in one of those, and a 9 in the other. We need a 9 here. That's got to be 7. That's a 9. And I think we might be about to crack the puzzle. And what a puzzle it is. 7 and 5 here. Over here I need a 1 and a 4. There we go. That's what I would submit. And it's correct. Brilliant. Brilliant shye again. So elegant. The star is just to die for. And the... yeah, and it was very tricky. And might well have been many better ways of resolving what I had to do around the central box with these cages. So let me know in the comments if you found a better way. I do read all the comments and enjoy them, especially if they're nice. Thanks for watching, and we're back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.